and welcome back to my channel. My name is Hart and today I'm talking about everything Run Disney 2022. Did I actually do the marathon in the end or did I give it a miss? Now, I'll show you by the shirt. I was brave enough and I did actually manage to do the marathon. It was a very last minute decision. About 6 weeks before the actual event, my training really started to lag. I got a lot of mum guilt. So if there are any new mums out there, please put in the comment section below whether you struggle with mum guilt when you're working out. I found that doing long runs week in, week out, it was really taking a toll on me, spending time with my family, especially at the weekend. So I did feel major mum guilt and I actually stopped running for about 6 weeks prior to the event. I reduced it down so I was only doing a couple of 30-minute runs. Christmas hit, Thanksgiving, we had lots of family coming over during that time, so again it really limited the amount of time that I was working out. So it was actually the Friday before the event. So it was actually on Friday when I decided to book the holiday to go down to actually stay and do the marathon, so very last minute. So I'm going to talk about the positives and the negatives of Run Disney 2022 and my personal experience running. So if you ran during Disney 2022, so again put in the comment section below if you were part of it, if you enjoyed it. Maybe tell me your time, whether you were pleased with it or whether you were slightly annoyed. I'll be sharing my thoughts on my own time in the video as well. So one of the positives is actually the organisation leading up to the event. There is a massive expo that goes on for the few days running up to the marathon. As well as the marathon, you do have the half marathon. There's a 10k and a 5k as well. For people that are crazy enough, and I saw plenty of them, there was the Dopey Challenge, which is where you do all those 4 events on the consecutive days. So obviously those people had to be there before even the 5k. We travelled on the Saturday and I went straight to the expo. It was really easy to find, really easy to get to. We stayed at one of the hotels at Disney because I wanted to make sure that I had easy access to everything. So we stayed at the beach club and there was transport to the event and back, so I had no trouble in getting there or back at all. When I got there, it was really easy to find where you had to go in order to get your bib. You received pins so you could attach your bib to your running top. There was also plenty of different merchandise available. There was lots of different stands so you could go and get running socks. There was massages the day before. Plenty of options to keep you occupied. Some of the things were quite pricey, but you're in Orlando, you're in Disney. Disney prices are high anyway. For this event, it's not going to be any different. So after you finish attending the expo, you've had a look around. I didn't stay too long because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't overdoing it the day before the marathon. I went home and I went to bed as soon as I could because I had an early get up. So this is one of the negatives. It's the early start. I had to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning for a marathon, which sounds insane when you think about it. Because of the way that it's run, you start at 5 o'clock in the morning, which is quite an early start for a running race anyway, but because you are running around the parks are opening. So when you are running, depending on what time you're getting through certain parks, some people are already there starting their day going on one of the rides whilst you're killing yourself doing a marathon. I had to be up at 2 because I had to make sure that I was getting the bus in time because there was only one bus that left in the morning to get to the start line. Now I stupidly thought if I stayed at a hotel that was near Epcot that I would actually get up a bit later or I'd be able to walk to the start line. I don't know where I got that thought from, but no, obviously I had to get on the bus. So we were there about 3 in the morning. That's a long time before the start of a race. You really do get pre-race nerves, no matter if you are an experienced runner or if you're a new runner. So you can go through a lot of emotions and it can be quite daunting to be waiting that long. So I found that the anxiety that I had prior to the start of the marathon was really intense because I was in that environment for such a long period of time. Another negative I found from the event was the fact that you got dropped off in one area of Epcot. You actually had a long walk to get to the starting line of the race. Now that's fine in terms of doing a little bit of a warm-up, but I did about 4,000 steps before I even got to my start line, and that seemed quite a lot to get to the start of a running event, knowing that I've now got to do 26.2 miles. So I wouldn't say that I enjoyed that particularly, but I understand that because it's difficult to navigate and get everyone to a starting point, you're going to have to drop them off somewhere, and there's different bits leading up to the actual start line. So you've got drop-off for your equipment. If you want toilet runs, there's plenty of toilets that you could go to. So I understand that principle, but it was still a bit annoying that you had to walk so far to get to the start line. I started in the back group and this was completely my fault. So I put in that I could do my minus 3 hours 30 marathon. Very deluded to be thinking that I could do that, and in doing so they put me in the back group. Now I could have actually have changed that, and I probably should have done. So prior to the marathon at the expo, you can change the time that you think you're going to get. I didn't know this, so I went in thinking that I was going to go into one of the front groups, and I actually went to the back group. So I didn't start my marathon until about 25 minutes minutes after the first people started. Now, this isn't a bad thing. If you are starting in that group, you've paced yourself for that time. So these are about 5 hours 45 going on to 7 hours, and that's fine. That's not a problem. I mean, if you're doing the Dopey challenge, a lot of people are in that group because they've done so much running anyway. But myself, I paced myself for doing anywhere between sort of 4.5 hours, and I was pitched at the back group. So I knew that I was going to have to fight through a wave of people, and sure enough I did. So when I started the marathon, pacing was terrible, and that was a negative from my perspective, but that was based on my fault. So when I was actually running at the start, I was in peak. So I was running using my Fitbit, and I was actually running in my peak training zone for a lot of it, just to dart past so many people, because otherwise I was going to get held up in group. So it took me a while to get into my stride, but I managed to catch up with the S2, S3 group. So that's your sort of 4+ hours, and that was about an hour and a half into the race. So I was really going for it, probably a little bit too much at the start, really ruined my pacing for the whole marathon. And by sort of 3 hours-ish plus, I could really feel that I was starting to struggle. I actually had a couple of stops. I've never stopped in a marathon before. I had to stop because my legs were in so much pain because I pushed myself too much at the start. So again, that is completely on me. It's not based on anything else. It's not based on the groups I was getting past. It's because I was not truthful in thinking what I actually could do, and just thinking, well, I used to be able to do that. It's a horrible revelation because yes, I used to be a -3:30 marathon runner, and all of a sudden I'm not. To come to terms with that was really difficult for me. I'm very competitive and I'm very determined when I set my mind to something, but I'm also very determined and very passionate about my children. And at this point in my life, during that training period, they came first, especially my little baby, because he's only just turned 10 months. So I wanted to make sure that I was giving him my full attention. My daughter's just joined a school. There's a lot of different things. It's not all about me for a change. When I was doing my marathons sub 3:30, everything was about me. All my times, all my hours spent training, it was on my terms. So I had to flip that and try and realise, which is really hard, but to try and realise that actually the reason why I'm not hitting those times anymore was because I hadn't dedicated that training, and I knew that in myself, but it was still difficult for me to make that connection. So what time did I run it in? I ran it in 4:32. So my clock time was 4:32. By the time I got through the finish line, it was 4:58. That's because the clock above you is the clock from the start of the first people passing the gate. You will have a delay based on that. Again, that's something I had to get my head around, because I was like, okay, I'm not normally that far behind. Why am I so far behind? And again, you had to think about it. Now, bear in mind, I had a couple of stops. I'd not trained for 6 weeks. It's not a terrible time by any stretch of the imagination, but have I beat myself up about it? Yes. Every single day since I've got that time, I've not wanted to tell people. This is kind of why I've delayed releasing this video, actually, because I felt embarrassed, and I shouldn't do, because it's a massive achievement, and I know it's a massive achievement to do a marathon, but in my own head, I felt like I failed myself. I failed the people that I was trying to communicate to do a marathon to. All the people that I've told about marathon running before that I know the time that I've done. So for me to go, this is the time I've done it in, I felt embarrassed to tell other people, and people that haven't known me doing those times, so new friends, telling them that this is my time makes me feel like I've almost lied to them about my original times. And when I finished the race, I was in so much pain. I remember going around, and I was about mile 20. I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing this again. So I was finding that running to the next water station or getting a bit of Powerade was really helping me during the marathon. I saw bits where you could cut in. You could be completely lying to yourself, but you could have cut in, and I was like, do I just do that? And I didn't. I still ran the race because, again, my uber competitiveness, I was like, I'm not lying to myself. That's just stupid. And then I got to about mile 24, and I ran past this man as we were going past all the crowds that saying, oh, there's not long to go, and he said, oh, you don't know what you're on about. Got really angry. I hate when people say that, because they don't know that you ran all that way before, and they don't know what it feels like to run that way before. And I just chuckled, because you try and explain to people 26 miles, and unless you've run it, you just don't know how difficult it is. So again, I've got to not beat myself up the fact that I've done that race and I've done that time. I finished the race. My little girl, my little boy, and my husband were all waiting at the finish line. The first thing I said to my husband was, I'm never doing this again. I never want to do it again. I hate doing it. I don't like doing it. And then by the next day, I've decided that I'm doing it next year. Reasons why? Partly because I'm crazy, I suppose. It's a very addictive thing to get into. The atmosphere around you when you're running with other people who are like-minded, because they're all committed to doing this race. It's very very contagious, and it's such a great environment to be in. I always say that marathons are one of the best environments to be around, and it's true. Even when you feel angry and annoyed at yourself, or you see other people just getting so frustrated because they're trying to run and it's painful, and you see people that you know have trained so hard and so much during this time to lead up to this event, and then they're walking because they're in pain, or they look just like they want to give up on everything. You know how difficult that is, and it's hard. And you see people that pull like hamstrings. There was this girl that towards the end, I think she was about a mile from the end, and I saw her hamstring just go. She just pinged when she was running, and for me that was so heartbreaking, and I wanted to go over and just give her a hug, but I couldn't, because what's the point? If you said that to her, she'd be so frustrated. She's so frustrated in her own mindset. They wouldn't have helped. So you just kind of wave at her, pass along, and keep going. Part of the reason contagiousness, part of it's because I'm crazy, and number 3 is I want to do a better time. I'm far too competitive, and I know I'm too competitive for my own good, but I do want to show that regardless of where you are in your life, you can show that level of fitness that you want to achieve. Also, I'm a bit of a sucker for a bit of bling, so I did get a beautiful medal. I don't know if you can, there we go, so we see that, and then on the flip side, there he is, Mickey himself. So I mean, I'm a Disney nerd and I love running, so what could be a better combination than having those two together? The other thing I got, I'm not so pleased about this beautiful hat. Now, I don't think I'm ever going to wear it, but I'm sure my daughter and my son, when they're a little bit older and they understand it a bit more, will enjoy it. My daughter, bless her, still tells me that when I was going over the finish line, she was going woo, woo, woo. So again, that's a huge positive of doing the marathon, because it shows me that I'm a role model for my child, and because she was, I mean, she's always running. She always runs anyway. But now she's running like mummy, and she's running around the house. She's running up and down the road. So I know I've got a little runner on my hands, and I'm sure my little boy will do the same. So that is everything, and this concludes this video. I hope this video gives you some insight into the highs and lows of a marathon. And if you are on the fence about doing one, even if it sounds like a really daunting idea and some of the negatives that I pointed out during the event, make sure that you do it. Tick it off that bucket list. Don't hold back on it. So on Wednesday, I'm doing an ab circuit, so make sure that you're ready to feel the burn in the core. And then on Friday, we are doing an upper body circuit. But for me, other than that, it's bye for now.
I keep on driving till it bends, still it feels like I pretend. Keep on driving and driving along the road to never end. Lost my head.